Hello and welcome to the United Views preview show. I'm Tom Doyle and I'll be your towards tonight. So we look forward towards Sunday's match. It's the big one, obviously. It's the Manchester derby, and United. We go into the game at Old Trafford a point ahead of City with 7 games left to play, and we could potentially go 4 points clear of them with 6 to play if we win. We've got some great guests lined up tonight. Unfortunately, Barry hasn't been able to log on yet, so we're hoping that he'll fly in at some point. But first up is the voice of reason. He may not be a United fan, but it's always good to have someone on that's not necessarily a United fan. Liam, we'll welcome you to the show.
Too kind, Tom, too kind. No, it's good to come on here and look forward to talking about the Manchester derby.
Yeah, definitely. And also we've got a regular on board. We've got Joey from the US. Hi, Joey.
Hey, how you doing? Looking forward to this weekend and getting a win at home for the first time in a few years.
Yeah, it's been a fair few years, hasn't it? There's a good chance. And last but not least, obviously, we have a United We Stand contributor in our midst here with Jonathan. Hey, John.
Yeah, how are we doing, lads? Nice to be here. Nice to be on.
Yeah, always good to have. So it's a very bunch today. We'll see how we get on. All right, let's kick things off on a good note. All right, first, guys, I'll be asking you, for your favourite Derby Day memories. All right, Jonathan, we'll kick off with you. What's your favourite Derby Day memory?
Oh, well, that would probably have to be, going back a bit here, but the end of '93, I was 10 at the time, and my dad took me to Main Road. We sat in the City's main stand, the family stand. I had the Black Shark View kit on at the time. Quite brave as a 10-year-old. I was probably a bit ignorant to the whole football hooliganism at the time. I don't know how my dad let me wear it as well, looking back on it. But we were in the main stand. I had a jacket over it, of course. And it's one of those things, Curly Watts, the chap who was on Coronation Street. Do you remember him?
I don't, unfortunately.
Famous Coronation Street character of the '90s, basically, in a big blue. Probably their celebrity fan, actually, as the song would suggest. But he was stood directly behind me, and City went 2-0 up with a brace from Niall Quinn in the first half, and it was a nightmare scenario. Obviously, as a 10-year-old, you're very impressionable at the time, and getting beat 2-0 at Main Road, surrounded by Blues, was pretty nightmare scenario. But I remember, obviously, in the second half, we sort of made this miraculous comeback with a brace from Eric and Keno scoring the winner. And all throughout, I remember in the first half, I think Curly Watts must have twigged that I'm a United fan somehow, probably because I wasn't celebrating when City scored. And he kind of was giving me a bit of abuse, which I thought, for a young lad was a bit out of order, really, given that I was only 10 at the time. But I remember when we scored the second, I sort of turned around and gesticulated to him just to let him know that we're back in the game. And then when the third goal went in, quite ecstatically turned around, and I think I'll say I gave him the thumbs up to be diplomatic, but I don't think thumbs up. And he just stormed out the stadium. I recall it vividly, him storming out the stadium. So I basically made Curly Watts leave the Manchester derby. 10.
Yeah, that was. You can't ask for more than that, can you? That's like the Derby Day just stirs up ridiculous passions, and if you can throw in, a little bit of Coronation Street humour as well, it's perfect. I mean, Joey, what's your favourite Derby Day memory?
Well, he went old school, so I'll go to one of the more recent. I could have gone with the Michael Owen or the Scholes with the Neville kiss, but I think I'm going to go with the RVP free kick because of what it meant that season. We were kind of in the memory of still City winning the title on the last day, and in the summer he could have chose City or United, and he came to United, and it was a decent game. I remember Rooney scored 2 goals in the first half. One had some really nice build-up play with Ashley Young, and they fought and got back in it, and at that point they had been beaten at the Etihad in a while. So I was thinking to myself, I'll take a point, and then that free kick happened. And it was just such a big moment, and I feel like that was really what kind of spurred us on to the title, because they weren't in good form that year, and we kind of got the title back relatively easy, but I feel like that put a big dent in it, and I know titles aren't won in December, but it was a huge confidence boost for us, and ending their little home streak, which was at quite a few games, I think that meant a lot to the club.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big, important performance, that, wasn't it? I mean, these type of games, they can make or break a season, can't they? They can sort of define a season. And it feels like going into this Sunday's game, I mean, it could potentially do that. There's the potential for this. I mean, Liam, we know that you're not a United fan. going into this, I mean, what are your big Derby Day memories? Say, is there a potentially big City memory you remember from the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd have to kind of agree with Joey. The LVP free kick was pretty spectacular. It gives you goosebumps even when you don't even support the club. But I think if there's going to be a goal that stands out for me, I think it's got to be the overhead kick from Rooney. I think weeks since that, after the game happened, everyone at school, they were just constantly talking about that overhead kick, and I think it's something that just lives on after the many great goals of the Premier League, and especially it happened at Old Trafford as well. So if I'm going to go for a memory, I'll definitely say the Rooney overhead kick was the one for me.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's hard to beat, isn't it? We could use a little bit of that magic again this Sunday. I mean, going into the game, Jonathan, what do you make of City? Do you think they're there for the taking, or should we be wary of them because they are champions? They're not on great form. They've lost the last 4, league away games. But do you think we should be playing our own game against them, or do you think we need to adapt for them?
Well, I mean, if you base it purely on form, you would have to say that of course we should be feeling pretty buoyant heading into this one. But it's just one of those games. I mean, you factor in that it's a derby first of all, so it's quite unpredictable. But I also think that City will raise the game again on Sunday. So I think it's just one of those games where conceivably anything could happen. Unfortunately, they could come and give us a pasting as much as we could annihilate them, I feel, unfortunately. So I just think it's one of those games where it's completely in the balance. Sorry to use a load of footballing cliches, but a load of my blue pals in Manchester, obviously the temptation has been to, shall we say, act a bit overconfident heading into Sunday, but I'm reluctant to do that just in case the tables are turned, because we have been very poor up until the last 3 games this season. We must bear that in mind. So it's difficult. I'm quite non-committal actually about my stance and how we're going to do on Sunday, because I know my City mates will absolutely rip me if I act overconfident.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, it's one of those games, isn't it? It's tough because we're going into the game 5 unbeaten in the league, and obviously City are not going in any sort of form, but they are still the champions. I mean, Joey, do you think we have to respect them? Do you think we have to respect the fact that even though they are not on form, that they still carry a real threat? Given that our defence, while it's been good this season, we don't really have still that star standout centre back where you'd say, yeah, we're going to contain them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, granted, they're not coming in on good form, but you have to respect what they do have. That Yaya Toure is still a fantastic player. Just because he hasn't been good this season doesn't mean he can't turn it on for these games. Same thing with Aguero. They have some real talent in their squad, and obviously they're coming in with low confidence, but they're going to come in with confidence now. Kind of contradicts myself there, but because they know they've had success over us. I mean, last year they absolutely blew us out the water in both games. It wasn't even close. So they'll come here knowing in recent memory that they've gotten the 3 points. But I think we should play our game, and I think we should play our possession style game and try and wear them out, because Joe Hart to me isn't. He had a great game against Barcelona, but he's an average keeper. I think we should do our thing and not worry too much about them. Let them try and win it, more than us try and be careful and cautious. I'd rather just do our thing.
Yeah, it's a good point you make there, especially about Joe Hart. I mean, I think Joe Hart's been in some excellent form recently, but I think he's one of those goalkeepers. There's a distinction. I think he's a great shot stopper, but he's not necessarily the best at making decisions. You see him getting beaten a lot from long range. He's the type of keeper that will make a lot of saves in a game, let in a couple, and everyone will say what a great game he's had. But I mean, Liam, how do you see United going into this one? Do you think that United will have to? Do you think Van Gaal will adapt his tactics, or do you think that it'll be more a case of Pellegrini suiting, possibly changing from the 4-4-2 to adapt to United's 4-3-3?
I think when you look at the both teams, United won 5 in their last 6, and City have only won 3 in their last 6, obviously coming off back of the feet against Palace. So I'm trying to see this game both means so much, even if it's the derby. But I think Man City really need this now because it's getting a bit of. I think there's still a bit of a gap between City and Liverpool, but they kind of need to get some momentum going. If I'm honest, I don't think Pellegrini will be the manager at the end of the season. I think that's completely done now. The owner expects at least a trophy, and then they're not going to get that. So I think top four, I think they will get, but United, I think they can take City's defeat, try and say that negative and turn that into a positive when they play them. So there's a lot of it's derby. We all know what's going to happen. But it's going to be hard to call. I think it's going to be a very tense match. But I think United should go into the game with full confidence. There isn't. They've got some great results. Liverpool away, Spurs at home. Obviously getting the win against Villa. So I think it'll be a very tense game. But I'm really looking forward to it.
That's a good point Liam makes there. I mean, Jonathan. I mean, just touching on City there. Do you think that this could potentially be the game that cost Pellegrini his job? And if so, how do you feel about that?
I'd be devastated if he goes. I think he needs time. Much like City fans would have suggested last year with David Moyes, give him a contract extension. I feel that Pellegrini is the man to take Manchester City forwards or backwards, depending on your perspective. Very much so. It could very much, shall we say, consign him to his inevitable fate, probably, whether it be before the end of the season or if it's a disastrous result for City on Sunday. It could kind of prompt the owners to prematurely act there. But I think it's very, very unlikely that he'll be there next season, unfortunately.
What a shame that would be, as you say. I mean, and we welcome Barry to tonight's show. Hey Barry, how are you doing?
Hi, nice to see you, lads. Sorry for my late arrival, but guys, Africa and email hookups doesn't always work, so apologies for that.
No worries, just glad to have you with us. I mean, I've asked the guys already, but we'll just touch on it now. What's your favourite Derby Day memory?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
What's your favourite Derby Day memory?
Oh, my favourite Derby memory. Oh, there are lots of them because we've whipped them so many times, but I guess couple that spring to mind, Scholes's header in the last minute. The look on the faces of the City fans was awesome. Of course, Michael Owen's goal for us, so great memories. But I think a couple of other special ones. Roy Keane getting the winning goal in a 3-2 win after we were 2 goals down, having played away in Turkey just before that. And an Andrei Kanchelski's hat-trick was also an awesome result. So I guess they've all been pretty sweet.
I mean, Jonathan said the Keane goal as well, so we've had 2 votes for that. That seems a particularly sweet memory from you guys. I mean, just moving on. I mean, moving on to the selection process for Sunday's game. I mean, we'll come back to Jonathan again. Jonathan, do you think Di Maria should start, or do you think do you think Van Gaal's just going to have to go with the same side that's kept this run going? Do you think there's any possibility that he's going to change it up?
Absolutely shouldn't start Di Maria. Well, I mean, he's been distinctly average, hasn't he? And, well, very underwhelming given the price tag and all of our expectations. But I mean, it's very difficult for Van Gaal, having found this what would appear to be a winning formula now, to alter it in any way, and especially not with the inclusion of Di Maria. He's got to stick with the same 11, I'd say, particularly the inclusion of Mata, Herrera, and Carrick. When you've got 3 football brains like that playing in tandem, we've seen the immediate impact that it can have. So no, 100% he's got to stay. I mean, my old Manu's a very old school red. He can't stand Di Maria. I mean, I don't remember him giving like Demba this much stick, and he really is anti Di Maria. But he has underwhelmed, so I can sort of semi-empathise with that.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I mean, Joey, it's a good point Jonathan makes there that Di Maria's underperformed, but he's still, I think, the second highest assister in the Premier League. I think he's got 10 assists, and that's higher than anyone. He's had a bad season by his, ridiculous standards of last year with Real Madrid when he practically guided them to the Champions League. But I mean, should we be expecting more from him? And do you think there's any potential that he'll play, or is he going to have to settle to be the bench player on Saturday?
Me personally, I would have him come off the bench because he can give you that spark that we might not have. We would expect that from Januzaj, but he hasn't really done it coming off the bench. But we should be expecting more, and I don't care about the price tag because that's Woodward and that's the financial aspect, and I'll never understand that my club spent less than yours, and I don't get into all that. But yeah, we should expect more, and he should be doing better. But he can come up with these little moments of brilliance, and that's what world-class players get you. They can have a shit 88 minutes, and then for 2 minutes be out of this world. So for me personally, I think Ashley Young should start. For some reason, Ashley Young, I don't know if it's because he's English or because he just gets what it is to play for the club. I feel that he will, put the extra effort in. He'll track back, where with Di Maria, you saw in the Arsenal FA Cup game, he could be at fault for that first goal because he kind of fell asleep, and he doesn't really want to get too stuck in. He's not a real defensive player. So for me, Ashley Young has to start. I wouldn't. The only thing I would change is, and I can't believe this, but I was looking earlier, and Phil Jones, according to Who Scored It app, is our top-rated player for the whole year. That just goes to show you that stats don't mean everything. So I would have Smalling. So I would have Smalling come in if he was fit and healthy. But that would be the only change I would make because I think Blind at left back has been excellent. You guys talked about the Spanish, with Carrick as well. Carrick might as well be Spanish because he's so calm and he's so cool on the ball. I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, it seems he's found a winning formula, and it's not like he just beat a few bottom side teams. We went to Anfield, we played them pretty damn good. We schooled Tottenham, and we didn't have the greatest game against Villa, but we got the job done, and we played decent football. And I think he should continue because I think that when you build a continuity, and you get this chemistry going, that it can do you wonders, and you can look like a real good side.
Yeah, I mean, it's strong. It's interesting that you touched on Daley Blind there at left back. I mean, he's been brilliant. We all knew that he could play left back, left wing back, defensive midfield, can even play centre back at a stretch. But I mean, Liam, just touching on that, do you think that? I mean, obviously Daley Blind has been great at left back, and the system is working at the moment. But given Carrick's a good interceptor of the ball. Given the threat, the sheer threat of people like Yaya Toure and David Silva, do you think Van Gaal would be tempted to play Blind, as a defensive shield in front of the centre backs, or do you think he'll stick to his guns and keep him out on the left?
I think Van Gaal will play the form that Man U have got. I think the last 5 games, United have won. I think you'd be quite brave to change that around. Van Gaal has changed it around recently, but now I think he's found a formation and a squad that is bonding well. And personally, I wouldn't really stick. I think I'd keep Blind in that left back role. I wouldn't use him as a shield. I think Flamey's doing a good enough job, and I think it'll be mainly Flamey and Yaya Toure when they play on Saturday. Is it Sunday or Saturday? Is it
Sunday, mate?
Sunday, yeah. So yeah, I think personally, like I say, I wouldn't change it much around because the last 5 games have been great results for United. But I think even if he did play Blind there, I think it's still positive results would come out. I think he's a fantastic player in that defensive mid role. But I think Flamey's doing a good enough job. So yeah, I wouldn't personally, if I was United manager, I wouldn't change that around.
Yeah, same to you, Barry. I mean, do you see Van Gaal sticking with what he's got? Do you think he's going to vary it up to try and deal with the specific threats that the City face, or is he going to stick to what he's got and try and beat him with his best 11?
Yeah, I think I'm in complete agreement with what the other fellows have said. I would keep it the same, barring any injuries in training, of course. I definitely would not start with Di Maria. I agree with Joey. I think he could be a good impact player for later in the game. But I would prefer Ashley Young on the left because he tracks back a lot better than Di Maria does. And Young and Blind are a good combination on the left-hand side. I think the midfield 4 that we've seen recently have really been a terrific combination. And I think that Mata and Herrera can certainly match Silva and whichever sort of other mobile midfielder City pick. I think a key battle will probably be Fellaini and Toure. You need a big presence against Yaya Toure. And I think we must remember that we're the home side. City are going through a run of bad form, and they're kind of there for the taking. And I would like to see United taking the game to City and giving them a good hiding on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point you make, Barry, about where the game's going to be won and lost. I mean, just touching on that, Jonathan, where do you see the game being won and lost in particular on Sunday? Do you think it's going to be a case of City's defence making a mistake, United's defence, or do you think it's all about the midfield battle?
Yeah, I think that, as the other gents have alluded to, the kind of Toure-Fellaini dynamic is going to be crucial. Whether Yaya Toure turns up and even fancies it, because judging by his recent performances, he's not massively committed at the moment, so that could be advantageous for us. I would think that in a derby he'd probably raise his game. I mean, it's a derby, isn't it? There'll be battles all over the pitch. Hopefully, everyone will be fully committed, and like Barry says, we should take the game to them. We shouldn't be. We're at home, and they are vulnerable at the moment. So if we can get an early goal, let the doubts creep into their mind, then potentially we could go on to get a few goals, which would be great.
Yeah, I mean, Joey, where do you see the game being won or lost? Do you think there's anything that we haven't touched on, say, an unexpected player that could turn the game in either side's favour?
Well, I mean, I put down in my notes there's going to be a few key battles, and I think Barry touched on it with Fellaini. Him versus the center backs. You saw Villa kind of crowd him with 2 or 3 players, and it kind of almost nullified Fellaini. So that's going to open it up for someone else. But the battles I'm interested in on that right-hand side, I want to see Mata and Valencia versus Silva and Clichy, because I think that side will have a lot to do, because Silva doesn't like to play, he doesn't like to get too defensive. We've seen Mata not play overly defensive, but more than he has. But I think anything can happen in these games, so it's hard to predict, where the key battles are going to happen and things like that. But I think that we just got to take our chances. There might not be many chances for either side, or there could be tons of chances, but we have to be clinical. We have to put our chances away no matter what, even if we don't get many. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. The midfield's going to be the biggest thing. It's going to be, Herrera, Fellaini, and Carrick versus, Toure and Fernandinho, or if he plays Fernando in there, he's been playing that flat 4-4-2. So I think Van Gaal will look to kind of crowd the midfield with 3 or 4 players. Rooney will drop a little deeper with Fellaini and help out. So the middle of the park is going to be the key area for me.
Yeah, I mean, Barry, do you see that happening? Do you see Rooney dropping deep in order to, get involved in that midfield? Or do you think we need him sort of to be stationed higher up and, keeping the likes of Company, at bay, sort of, creating that space for other people to drop into? Because Company hasn't looked that good recently, has he, at all?
Yep. I like Rooney higher up the park. Since he's gone up front, we've won 5 on the spin. So we need a front man. And again, remember, we're the home side. We want to do the attacking. I think a key area for us is the guy that's given us a lot of trouble in recent games against City has been Aguero. He scored quite a few goals against us. We need to keep him quiet. So that's going to be a key battle, marking him. City, it's hard to call because they're a great side. They've got a lot of good players. I think they're a club in disarray at the moment, and hopefully that'll continue. But they'll be up for this game, make no mistake. But I'd like to see Rooney playing up front. Once we're a couple of goals ahead and there are only 10 minutes left, he can maybe drop a bit further back. I think the first goal will be crucial in this game, and I expect Rooney to play a big part in this game because he likes playing against City. I hope he's up for it.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that Rooney's, going to be integral to this, as is Aguero up the other end. I mean, Liam, who do you think City's key player is going to be on Sunday? Obviously we all know Aguero can score goals, but they've got a varied squad. They've got a lot of talent, a lot of variation there, even if they are playing a sort of a rigid 4-4-2. Who do you think United have to watch out for in particular?
Well, I think, like you said, Aguero, everyone knows what he's capable of. Personally, I still think he's the best striker in the league. I know his form has been pretty poor, but he can win you games. just an example when they played Bayern Munich. I mean, if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't be winning 3-2. So, I think also another player, David Silva. I think United got to be careful of him. He's such a creative player, and people like Rojo or Phil Jones, Smalling, whoever he does play at centre back, they got to be really careful of him because he's quick and he's pacey. He'll turn on defenders as well. So they got to be really up for the game. And of course, Jaya Toure. Those three players personally for me are all top class. But then again, I think United can really take a lot of things from it because they're not in form. And when those three players, and even Company, at one point everyone was saying he's the best centre back in the world. So these kind of players, they need to be watched. But United can't take anything for granted because I think City kind of need to win this just to tell the City fans that they're behind them still. And they're trying their hardest. If they get a result against United, that'd be a massive morale boost for them. It's going to be a really tense game. Both teams really needing results. City more, of course, but I think those are the players you need to keep your eye on if you're in that defensive role for United.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you guys, you've all made some good points about the midfield, especially about obviously Carrick's return from injuries, coming back to form. We've had Herrera and Mata linking up. We've had even Fellaini, he's hit a really good run of form. But it seems like the squad in general, has hit, this great run of form that everyone is just sort of along the same wavelength. And whether it's this, much fated Van Gaal philosophy or whatever, it just seems to be working for United at the moment. I mean, Jonathan, we've had people like Antonio Valencia, the Arsenal game aside. We've had Chris Smalling, turning up for games. Phil Jones is getting, less injured. He's not walking out of every single game. A lot of the players that were much maligned earlier in the season are starting to turn on. What do you think has been key to this?
You could partly attribute it to the fact that the midfield is now more steady. When you've got players like Mata, Herrera, Carrick, and they're all sort of in harmony and they're retaining possession of the ball, there's always going to be a lot more, or should I say, a lot less pressure on the defence. And I think towards the start of the season with this new formation and the fact that the midfield wasn't clicking either, nor was the sort of forwards getting any service, the defence was constantly under pressure. And invariably, if a defence is constantly under pressure, they're going to crack, and that's why there were quite a few sloppy mistakes at the start of the season. It sort of finally looks like we're beginning to eradicate those now, which is promising. And hopefully, obviously, we can just take the momentum and move forward. But like I say, I am confident and feeling buoyant heading into Sunday, but in a kind of perverse sort of way, because this is the first time in a couple of years where we're almost expected to win on Sunday. It's a bit of a weird feeling because in recent derbies we've almost been the underdogs. I don't know, I've got this sort of slight nervousness ahead of Sunday. I just think, City are going to come all guns blazing, and they've got such dangerous players that can turn it on when they fancy it. So, we've got to be very careful at the same time. It's going to be a very tense game, I think, very tight.
It's a great point you make, especially about it sort of feeling perverse there, because we're going into a game against the champions. And we're favourites effectively. If you'd have said, as you said, 2 months ago we'd be going into this game at this point of the season as favourites against the defending champions, people would have laughed you off. But Joey, what do you think is behind this? Touching on what Jonathan said, do you think it's the midfield clicking? Do you think that gives confidence to the young defenders, or the form of De Gea? What do you think it is about this United team that is clicking now, as opposed to when it just seemed like we couldn't do anything right, say 3 months ago?
I think a huge part is the midfield with Michael Carrick, because Michael Carrick allows Herrera and Fellaini to do what they do in the midfield. And with Mata, I remember under Moyes, I did not want him to play on the wing at all. Now it's and even when he was played out there, I saw the first lineup he was, and I was like, oh man, he's not that good on the wing, But he's played as almost a false winger, and I think that Juan Mata has been excellent. His link-up. Also, I think it's just like a perfect storm of things. Daley Blind comes in at left back, and you see how he gets involved with the possession more than most left backs do in any game. But I think a big part of it is just time. I think he needed time. He said give it till December. Injuries really messed that up, and I think the players are starting to now understand his philosophy. and they're taken to it. They believe in it, which is something they didn't. Moyes doesn't have a philosophy, and they didn't believe in Moyes from day one. And then I think the continuity, the same lineup has really helped. Chris Smalling, not being injured every other week. Same thing with Phil Jones now. And I think that has something to do with it. Obviously, De Gea's form. He kept us in. He drug us through the season, which is why he's definitely the player of the year. Because we could have been out of it in December. We could have dropped points to Everton at home, and there's a few other games that he won for us. Stoke at home, he had a couple great saves. So I think it's just a perfect storm of the right starting 11, the right players in that formation, the time. Louis van Gaal is great. I think he's gotten his point across on the training ground. I think that players understand what he wants from them. He expects things out of every player in every position, do's and don'ts, and I think they're understanding that. And like I said, they believe in it. So I think, perfect storm of everything.
Yeah, Barry, do you agree with that? I mean, it's a great point, like a perfect storm. Everything seems to be clicking at the moment. And Joe makes a really good point, actually, there about, Carrick coming back and he allows other people to play. I mean, at the start of the season, I remember Daley Blind being signed, and he actually gave an interview saying, I let other people play. But in fact, Carrick is the player that's doing that for us at the moment. Do you think he's the key to all this?
Yeah, I think in principle I agree with exactly what Joey has said. I think Michael Carrick, as his career has progressed, he's become more and more appreciated. He's always been appreciated by the players around him and by some of the better pundits. And when he's not in the team, I feel a little bit insecure. I much prefer our team with him in the side. A calming influence, a good distributor of the ball, and a great reader of the game. So what that's enabled us to do is to free up a couple of other midfielders. And for me, Herrera and Mata have to start every game. Their combination is terrific. Their interplay is fabulous. And what I think has changed a little bit, firstly, I'm delighted that he's dispensed with the back three. We've seen a back four in recent games. I much prefer that. And it's all about confidence. And what the team are doing is they're playing at a higher pace, and they're pressing forward as opposed to all these balls going backwards. And I think it's about combinations. I think that Mata, Herrera and Valencia have combined very well down the right, Blint and Young on the left, and there's been stability because of fewer injuries of late. Very unsettling, the amount of injuries, particularly at the start of the season. So I think that's been key, but it's all about confidence now, and I think what it does is it spills over to us as fans. Because no question about it, we've won 5 on the spin. We're going out expecting to win on Sunday, and that's Man United. We need Old Trafford to be a fortress again, and we have pretty much turned it into that. We won't talk about the Southampton or Swansea games, but the rest have been okay.
Yeah, I mean, Liam, just building on what Barry said there about Carrick, he's been underrated for a lot of his career by... some of the better pundits have always rated him. Not every England manager has rated him, but it seems like in the last, say, 2 to 3 weeks, especially with him in the England fold once again and playing well, that people have sort of jumped on the Carrick bandwagon, as it were. What do you think of it? Do you think he's always had this talent, or do you think it's just taken people this long to realise that he does this job for United? He's done it so well alongside Scholes. He's just done it consistently.
Yeah, I think always Carrick's kind of been that kind of player, even when I was a young kid. I think he kind of lets the other people around him play, and he just kind of gives more options, I think, to the United team. But I don't think he gets noticed as much because he's not like the Rooney or Van Persie or these big name players. He's quite a quiet player. I don't think he really talks much to the media, but he's just that quiet player. He just lets everyone play, and that's why I like him so much, because he's just all about the football. I think, a lot of people, really underrate him, and I think he's, a top player for United. But yeah, I definitely agree. He does let the other team play. Maybe that's improved with Van Gaal as manager, but I've always kind of seen that touch with Carrick, and no, I really think he's a good player. And I think he'd be essential for the Manchester derby on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all hoping that as well. I mean, just building on that, Jonathan. I mean, there's been, obviously, as a United fan, there's been nothing but talk of top 4 all season. Are we going to get it? Are we going to have enough to get there? And suddenly we find ourselves in the position where if we win, we go 4 points ahead of City. If Arsenal drop points, then we'd be second. So, I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, do you think it's too soon to think of even, do you think it's too soon to talk of certainty of the top four, given that we play Chelsea afterwards and then we've got a tricky trip to Everton? Do you think we should be thinking about second, or, where do you see it? It's a crazy turn of events.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's almost, I'd say, prior to maybe 3 or 4 games ago, it's almost inconceivable that top four was going to be sort of, not a formality, but comfortable. And at this stage, I think we'd all be mightily disappointed if we don't finish top four. Again, we've got some tough games, but with the run of form that we're on now, very much we should be looking to capitalise and try and get an automatic Champions League spot, certainly third, if not second, so that we don't have to go through the kind of rigours of having to at least qualify for the Champions League. So third would be, I'd snap your hand off now for third.
You just said there, we're all hoping that we wouldn't have to go through the qualifying rounds, but it's a great feeling to be able to say that. We'd be disappointed with fourth. I think some of us are the same, with a fourth finish at the end. Joe, how do you see this? As Jonathan said there, before these 5 wins, we were thinking, can we get it? What's going to happen? Is Van Gaal going to keep his job? And now suddenly we're thinking of second as a realistic finish.
Yeah, it's crazy. Before the Spurs game, people were like, thinking, can we even beat Spurs at home? And we ended up winning 3-0 comfortably. It was over in the first half. So I think that we should be aiming up. I think over these next 3 games, City, Chelsea, and Everton, I would be disappointed if we didn't get a minimum of 5 points. A win and 2 draws or some combination, even something like that. Because I think that, like Jonathan hit the nail on the head, I don't want to go in the qualifying rounds because it's an extra game. And you can get drawn against some tough competition, especially from the Italian teams. Napoli ended up playing Athletic Bilbao, and they didn't qualify, and you would expect Napoli to win. That's a tough ask of that. So I think we should be aiming for second. All of a sudden it went from I hope we get top 4. How you feeling about top 4? Are you confident? Now it's can you get third? Can you get second? Are you confident about that? And I feel confident because. I think that game against Arsenal, the second to last game of the year, I think that's going to be for third and second. I really do.
Yeah, Barry, how do you see it? Do you think it's too soon? Are you cautious? Are you cautious about talking about top 4 as a formality? Do you think we should be going into it on this run of form thinking, we should be favourites for a top 2 finish at this rate?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I think a couple of months ago, top 4, we were all rather pessimistic with respect to that. The season started where we said kind of minimum requirement is Champions League football. I certainly think that based on this current form, the momentum is there and we are several points ahead. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're 8 points ahead of Liverpool at the moment. So we're pretty well placed from that point of view. And there's this beautiful cliche that's around, when there's 6 or 7 games left, you get every manager saying we'll take every game as it comes and we'll treat every game as a cup final. I guess that's how it has to be approached. We want to win all those games. Where it places us remains to be seen. If we play well, we're capable of winning a large amount of those games. Let's remember, we've beaten a lot of the top sides away from home. And I think the lads will step up to the plate. They're playing with a lot of confidence and no reason not to expect us to be there. So that was a long-winded way of saying I expect us to qualify with the Champions League.
Nice, I like it. And also, it's a great point you make about there that, every manager uses the cliche of it feeling like a cup final. But I think for United fans, the end of this season, it's beginning to almost feel a little bit like the treble season. Every single game coming along is just a big game. Then obviously it was, Champions League, FA Cup. There were big teams in every competition we were playing. But this season, it seems like we've left all the tough games till last. Liam, as a neutral, how do you see the race for the top 4 panning out? Do you think United and Arsenal are favourites to, be closer to Chelsea, or do you think City? Do you think it's just a blip for City? Do you think Liverpool and Spurs can still, catch up, or is it too late for them?
I think Liverpool and Spurs, personally, they're out of it. It's not a massive gap point between Liverpool and City, but I just can't see, if they get a draw here and then City get a win there, it's very hard, I think, for them to catch up. I think it really done them in when they lost against United, personally. I think, my top four, I think it'll be Chelsea. I think Arsenal will go on for second. And then it's third or fourth, United or City. I think if United do beat City, I think that will be their third place. I don't think they'll get second. I think Arsenal good form at the moment. And I think they want to try and show something for the fans. And obviously they've got something for the FA Cup as well. So they have a lot of momentum still with them for the rest of the season. But then again, United will as well. So yeah, I'm very 50-50 between them two still. I think this weekend's result, personally, will decide third or fourth for me.
All right, so obviously, according to Liam, it's going to be a huge game in the outcome at the end of the season. I mean, it's come to that point of the show. I think we should get some predictions in for the game. I mean, starting with you, Jonathan, what's your score prediction? And are you predicting any strange things to happen? A red for anyone? Have you got your eye on anyone for a strange red card or a penalty or anything like that?
As long as it's in their box and not ours, I'll take anything. I think we'll win 2-1. I'm going to go. I'm inherently an optimistic United fan. Granted, the last 18 months have tested that optimism at times. But whilst I'm a bit nervous that we're favourites going into this weekend, I think we'll win 2-1. I think Matt will score a goal as well.
Nice, massive for one. I mean, Joey, how do you see it going?
I hate to agree with his scoreline, but I'm going to go 2-1. I think Fellaini and Rooney, and I think Aguero, I mean, it'll be 1-1, I think. Aguero's, he always scores against us, it seems like. So, yeah, I'm going to go 2-1. But, they need it more than we do. They need to win more than we do, so it'll be interesting if they push real hard at the end and then we hit them on the break. So, anything, especially with Di Maria probably coming off the bench, anything can happen, though.
Yeah, that seems like the way it's going to go, isn't it? I mean, throw Di Maria on at the end and watch chaos happen because he can run with it, but he can't keep it, can he? So, I mean, we're moving on to Barry now. I mean, Barry, what do you see the scoreline being? And who are you predicting to score, or are you predicting a red card for anyone? A lovely Derby Day red like Chris Smalling.
I'm predicting a 3-1 win for United, with Rooney getting 2 of them and Herrera getting the 3rd one. I also am a little bit concerned that we have Mark Clattenburg as the referee. I think that virtually guarantees that there will not be 22 players on the field at the end of the game. And I'm hoping that he has a quiet game and he doesn't make it about himself. If there's going to be a candidate to be sent off, Vincent Kompany. I think that United should exploit the relative slowness of the centre-backs of Man City. I'm hoping De Michaelis plays, and they should run at them, and that's possibly where we might see a red card. But hopefully no moments of madness from any of our players.
That's a good point you make about Kompany, because, I mean, he's been stepping up a lot recently. He's been trying to gain a yard or two, and he's just not getting it at all, and he's made a lot of mistakes this season. I mean, Liam, what's your prediction for the game, and do you see Kompany doing something reckless?
Yeah, I think, we talk about Kompany, he's had a very on and off season, so I think if United players can get under his skin, and he gets very frustrated quite easily, Kompany, even he is a big bloke, and you probably don't want to do that, but if it helps United out, it's a big bonus. But yeah, I think go for Kompany. I think, yeah, red card, I could see that happening for him. If I think about a prediction, I don't know why, something's telling me it's going to be a draw 1-1 or something. I think both teams are really going to be going for it, but then it's going to be kind of park the bus in a way. But I don't know, just 1-1's going for me. I think a Rooney goal and Aguero, he always seems to turn up at Old Trafford. So, yeah, I'm going to go 1-1.
1-1 playing it safe. Maybe, as the neutral, you're the voice of reason there. I mean, that's all we've got time for, guys. I mean, going ahead into Derby. Thanks for joining us tonight. I mean, Jonathan, where can people find you tweeting and online, YouTube, anything like that?
Yeah, no, just my name at Jonathan Schrager, SHRAGER on Twitter. Do various bits and bobs around the old internet. So yeah, you'll find me. Nice.
All right, Joey, where can people find you tweeting?
It's at Joey Tabor. So same thing as my name. Yeah, tweet me. I'm always responding to everyone I can.
He's good for a laugh. Barry as well. Where are you tweeting?
I'm on Twitter at DocUnited.
That's DOC. Yep.
That's right.
Yeah. And Liam, where can people find you, mate?
You can find me at Liam PL Edwards. Let's get one in there.
Nice, all right. That's all we've got time for, guys. I mean, you can subscribe to the channel, the United View, and we'll have a review show of obviously when we crush City at the weekend. We'll have that live on Sunday night. So until then, it's just I'm going to leave it to Joey this week to say the customary "Come on, United."
Come on, United!